For my interviewee, I selected Mr. Joe Aurelio Florio. Now, Mr. Aurelio, to me, the most memorable aspect of his memories was his experiences in physical education. From the interview, it said that he was really big into soccer, and how he would support himself is he would have a job as a waiter. This is how he's able to support his physical activities as an undergraduate. Now, I think Mr. Florio's experiences aren't very typical for most Americans during the Great Depression, and him, like everyone else on the page, they went to college, they had, fraternity experiences, and from the data that I've seen, um, only around like 5% or less of Americans actually went to college in that era, so that's highly irregular for most people. Um, so it was similar in aspects as he had to do a lot of jobs to support himself, but that's typical even today. Um, so 50 years from now, like let's say I was to be asked what was my experiences, I think what I would say the most is I would talk about how expensive school was and how I was in a lot of debt for my college loans, and that I had to take up jobs while doing school to pay it off. And how does that compare to most Americans in this day and age? I'll say pretty typical. I believe somewhere from 60-70% of Americans go to college in this day and age. And I, like most Americans, can't pay it off in one go. I have to work up to pay off debt. And so I would say my experience is pretty typical. I have a pretty common income level that most Americans have. Um, so this type of history, this type of oral history, is a reliable source of information. Obviously, oral history is never as reliable as first-hand sources or even second-hand sources to an extent, because we are people and we have biases. We all tell things through our own lens. But there are strengths to it. Like many cultures throughout history have not had written sources and have not had, well-documented history. And for a lot of cultures, a lot of what we know about their culture comes from oral history. So there is things to be gained from oral history, in terms of what's the value of oral history and recording American history. Obviously, our history is well documented. The value of that is you kind of get a first-hand account. You kind of get a kind of a viewpoint. You get to have a little dive into the mind of what a person's thinking in a day and age. For example, you see a video from only 10 years ago, from 2010, and even a video from that short of a period of time ago, you can still kind of see the differences and the thought process of a person from 2010 compared to today. So overall, I do think there is a lot of value that can be gained from oral history, although comparatively, it probably is not as good as written history.